All right, we are live. It is Friday. So, all right. It's been a little bit, not too long, but figured I'd come back since today the digital copies of Black Ops Volume 6, the crossover campaign that launched late last year in the fall. Digital copy is released today. So if you back the Black Ops Volume 6 and Omnibus 2 campaign and you've been waiting for digital copies, then you want to check your email because Timothy Lim sent those out this morning and people have been reacting on Twitter. They have been sharing screenshots. They've been sharing thoughts, and it's been really cool to watch the reaction to Tim's and Mark's work. And of course, I have a vested interest in covering this because Father Redder was skillfully incorporated into the story by Tim and Mark. And people are commenting on that as well. Brett Palmer, thanks for tuning in. Captain Cummings, thanks for tuning in. So I figured today I would obviously talk about the Iconic Comics, the Black Ops 6 feedback that's coming in, which has been super cool to see. Especially people are talking about the Father Redder appearance and his role in it. And, I don't want to get too into it just because, some people haven't read the digital copies. They're waiting for the physical copies. I'm more of a physical guy. Also, if you're tuning in, recently the digital copies of Butch Killigan were released as well. So I know people have been reading that. They have been liking it as well. I'm holding off for the physical copy. I like physical copies. And I sent a DM to Sven recently and was like, hey, if you don't hear me talking about the story, it's because I like to hold off until I read the physical, if at all possible. But I've seen people responding to that as well, so they like that. But today, like I said, because Father Redder is in Black Ops Volume 6, I will definitely cover some of this because people are sharing pictures of Father Redder and his stubble and his little slow motion walk away, amen, kaboom sort of stuff. Mark was joking around about the corniness or the cheesiness. And I think Tim and Mark always know when and how much to throw in a little of the, it's all in good fun sort of pseudo corniness or sort of stuff. It's just fun. It's cool. And they always are able to strike that balance. Miss Martin Muses, thanks for tuning in. So to me, this is the kind of thing, like when I was growing up, these are the things that you want to see in the comic books and just kind of cool moments. And Tim and Mark, they have their fingers on the pulse of fun and exciting. And so it's just cool to see everyone reacting to that. So I thought I'd cover that. I thought I would cover anime Sunika. Hopefully I pronounced that correctly. Iconic Comics has another convention, anime manga, that's coming up down in Texas. I believe it's February 16th and 17th, if I'm not mistaken. So Iconic Comics getting expanding. And so I figured to talk about that. Talk about Soul Finder Volume 4. I got a new art piece in today that I'm going to incorporate. So long story short, our colorist is also an artist. He is very, very, very talented. He does painted stuff. He does all sorts of stuff. And at some point in time, we were talking, and he was wondering if he could contribute something to the book. And I was like, yeah, man, let's see what's up. We'll figure it out. And he started turning in work, and I was like, dude. This is scorching good stuff. We got to figure out a way to put this into the book. I might even just have to make it a cover because it's really, really good. And I've been, there's a few people, I probably should get one to Captain Cummings here. I've been showing some artwork to, and I like to sometimes with readers, just kind of like to throw them out some stuff and be like, hey, check it out if you haven't already. So actually, Brett Palmer, if I don't even know, did I even talk to you? I believe if you check your email, you will also see that I sent you. All right. I'm checking my email as I'm. Let's see. My face is on the screen, so I could check this out. So Brett says, guessing it's ... No, it is our colorist. So some people are wondering if it's Dave Dorman. Nope, this is not Dave Dorman. There's been a couple people that I've sent it to today that have wondered if it was Dave Dorman. No, it's our colorist, Rodrigo. So Dave did do a piece for Soul Finder Volume 4. I shared that a long time ago, so it's probably already people forgot about it. It's Reginald Crane crawling through the caves, and he's got his pistol out or whatnot. And there's like a scorpion. There's a little scorpion in front of him. And then there's like a huge scorpion tail, glowing demonic thing behind him in the shadows or whatnot. So anyway, I have historically here and there, I like to give people little previews that I know have been following since the very start. And nobody has ever leaked anything. So anything I've ever shared to people, thank you. That's why I continue to do it, because people don't leak it before I share it publicly. And then they're very good about that sort of stuff. So Soul Finder Volume 4, kind of talk about that. Talk about Anthony Fauci, Dr. Fauci. That is one of those things where anytime new stuff comes out, and so he's under oath and he talks about social distancing and how the 6 foot sort of thing, it was just made up essentially. And he says it just sort of appeared out of nowhere and they ran with it. So I want to cover this sort of stuff because this had very real impacts on people's lives. Good people, honest people were demonized. And let's see, Dave, thanks for tuning in. RPX, thanks for tuning in. Mr. Grahovac, thanks for tuning in, says nerds. So yeah, Anthony Fauci, let's talk about him. And Chris Christie dropped out of the Republican quote unquote primary. So yeah, I guess when you're polling at 2% for months and months and months, maybe at some point in time, it's not going to happen, dude. You're not going to be president. You're not going to be on Pennsylvania Avenue. You're not going to be in the White House. Sorry. I always like to cover or think about the consultants that filled this guy with ego gas lies for his doom from the start campaign. These consultants are paid big money, oftentimes like 6 figures, to tell these people that they're so awesome. So it's fascinating to me. And once upon a time, when I lived in DC, I knew some of these people that were consultants, and that was a road that I could have gone down because I was acquaintance, I was friends with a friend to consultants or whatnot. So my buddy, who I worked with at the Heritage Foundation, he had friends that were into radio, who were also into consulting, and they're paid a lot of money to do this sort of stuff. And a lot of times these consultants, they just have a losing record, but they continue to get paid. To me, it's fascinating. If you could get paid like $100,000 for, a few months of just telling someone like Chris Christie, filling his head with lies. Now, obviously, if I went into consulting, I would not want to be someone that's just like, hey, I'm going to get paid to just like lie to this guy. This is awesome. I would, try and look for campaigns where I really believe that the guy could win. And maybe these consultants, maybe they believe that Chris Christie could have been the man. I don't know. But I honestly, after having met a lot of these people, a lot of them are unprincipled. A lot of them are just looking for the next paycheck. And yeah, so, all right. Adventures in Miniature Gaming says, I hope Vivek stays in as long as possible, though. He keeps saying stuff I've been thinking all along, but never hear any prominent Republicans say. Yeah, so I was actually going to mention Vivek as well. So Vivek, I don't think he has all these paid consultants. I don't know enough about him, but it seems like he does not need consultants, does not need to really pay them. He probably needs to pay people for certain logistical things. And, there's only so much time in the day. So if you're looking to get on various shows or whatever, like you do need people for that. But I don't think that he has consultants telling him how to dress, how to do his hair, doing, all you need to do is, cake on so much makeup. You need to present yourself in this way. You need to reinvent yourself. This is the Vivek you need to be to, take in this percentage of this people and overlap with this population. And we're going to get with Frank Luntz, the pollster guy, and we're going to figure out what you have to say to manipulate people to get the votes that you need. I don't think Vivek does that. I think he just kind of, he's doing his thing, and it's interesting. Now, some people say that he doesn't believe what he says he believes. Whatever the case is, he's saying a lot of things that need to be said. So, he is one of the only people that I see outside President Trump who actually, how do I say this? When it comes to the stuff in January 6th, and Vivek's the only other person who really can articulate in a very succinct, precise manner exactly what happened on that day. And I've said this in multiple streams now, is I used to work in the Capitol. I used to give tours of the Rotunda to visiting constituents from Illinois, from Peter Roskam at the time, Congressman Peter Roskam's district. That was my district once upon a time. I used to give the tours. So I know about the security at the Capitol. I used to have to go through security. And I knew when all of that was happening that it was either a massive security failure of epic proportions that made absolutely no sense, or it was somehow, some way, for some reason allowed to happen. There were essentially all of this was allowed to unfold so narratives could be created for political purposes. And at the time I said that, and even though I worked in the Capitol for a good amount of, not years or anything, but long enough to know what was going on. And when I was saying it at the time, when I worked in the newspaper, you had all these people like, you don't know what you're talking about. You don't know what you're talking about. I live in, whatever state, I live in California. You don't know what you're talking about. Even though I literally worked in the Capitol, okay? And then it was like, no, because they just wanted something to be true. They wanted to believe it so much. Speaking of which, Saint Robert Bellarmine, hopefully I pronounced that correctly. I don't know all my saints here, but there's so many saints. But it's a good quote that I saw the other day. We can believe whatever we like, but the truth remains what it is. Isn't that true? Saint Bellarmine, whatever. You're telling the truth about the truth. So people just wanted to believe that Viking Boy and his friends and random people here and there that literally didn't even have weapons, or maybe like a handful of people out of 10,000 plus or whatever it was brought their handgun or something like that. I don't even think that is the case. I think there was a guy that was arrested in Virginia because he had guns, but I don't. Whatever the case, this alleged insurrection where nobody was using firearms at all. Maybe a couple people had, I don't know, pepper spray or something like that. Well, whatever the case. Anyway, back to Vivek. Yeah, Vivek is one of the only guys that's able to call out the media on this and talk about how there was all sorts of sources, either literally FBI sources, assets, I should say, FBI assets or FBI sources on the ground who were essentially instigating. Now, if you know anything about crowd dynamics and crowd psychology, it does not take a lot of people behaving badly to get the crowd to, as a whole, start to behave badly. People, overwhelmingly, a lot of them are followers. They don't want to be the person to start something, but they will be the person who gets involved in something that's already taking place, especially if they have cover. So if you have a handful of bad people that start acting like quote unquote leaders, and you get people riled up and they're getting angry, and then you have people, law enforcement, who needlessly are shooting people with rubber bullets and, lobbing, essentially like gas crowd, CS gas into the crowd when they don't need to do that. You get people emotional, you get people angry, their frontal lobes start like heating up because they're getting mad. Like, why is this guy shooting me with rubber bullets in the face when we didn't do anything? They didn't shoot people with rubber bullets in Philadelphia and Chicago when they were burning down the Ronald McDonald House in Chicago or whatever it was. They didn't do that. They let them just do it. But us, we're mad. They're shooting us in the face with rubber bullets. That's really weird. Now we're getting angry. And so you get people angry, and then all of a sudden you have your assets, your little nodes here and there. Hey, go into the Capitol. We're going to go into the Capitol. Hey, push. Hey, I'm going to stay behind. I'm not going to the Capitol, but you can. Okay, see you later. All right, I'm only going to get a misdemeanor for this after everybody has me on video instigating. All right, enjoy your, 3 years to 22 years in prison, suckers. So Vivek, no matter what you think of him, I do appreciate that he actually talks about this sort of stuff. AL, thanks for tuning in. Rob Curro, thanks for tuning in. Mr. Grahovac, thanks for tuning in. Let's see. Isn't people wanting Vivek the same as people wanting Obama to win? Yeah, I don't know. I don't really have a dog in the fight, but I do appreciate Vivek calling out the media. Anybody who could accurately call out media bias and how these people are all a bunch of liars and deceivers. I do appreciate that. So again, I haven't looked into him enough to really know too much about his past. I've just been sitting back because I've said for months and months now that I really only care about Trump running again. I don't really care about anybody else. I will vote for Ron. I would vote for Ron DeSantis over Joe Biden. I would vote for Trump over Joe Biden. I would probably vote for pretty much anybody over Joe Biden. So like, I don't know. If you put somebody on the Republican ticket who kind of sort of is Republican and I have to choose between the two, even if you're like, well, are you choosing between the lesser of two evils? Then, and if that's what you are forcing me to do, if I have to choose between Joe Biden and somebody else, I'm probably going to pick somebody else because Joe Biden is an absolute disaster as a president. I don't know how anybody could look at what is going on the border in particular, national security wise, Ukraine, Israel, all, Hamas, Hezbollah, Yemen, all of this. How do you think Joe Biden, inflation up the wazoo? All I know is mortgage rates. It could just keep going on and on and on. Joe Biden is an absolute disaster. And plenty of people predicted this. So yeah, it's just really sad to see. Dave, they set up some stuff in those BLM riots too. Remember the random pallets of bricks? Oh yes, I remember the random pallets of bricks. Very interesting how all that just shows up. Yeah, these construction things that just pop up out of nowhere. And that their excuse was like, well, this was long in the works. This, I forgot, I think it was in Philadelphia. I'm not 100% sure if that was the one. But yeah, all of a sudden out of nowhere, just pallets of bricks just showing up on the street right where all the BLM activists were going to show up. The bricks show up too in the middle of the night or whatever it was. Very interesting. Very interesting. The media is not concerned about where the bricks came from or why they're there, and they're never really concerned about these rental vehicles that show up with those sorts of things. But again, we're getting into the weeds here. There's probably some people that are watching this that they don't even know about all this sort of stuff, and that's what's it's very hard to talk about this with a lot of people because they don't. How do I say it? They're busy running their lives. They have a hard enough time just paying their rent every single month, and they're working crazy jobs, and they're just trying to feed their family or whatnot. So they don't have time to learn about all the shenanigans, to put it mildly that have gone on over the course of years, but there's lots of shenanigans. So yeah, let's see. Yeah, talking about Fauci. Speaking of shenanigans, Fauci admits to Congress that certain COVID social distancing guidelines lacked scientific basis. The guy who I don't know if it was an exact quote, but he called himself the science. He portrayed himself as the embodiment of science at one point in time, but it was faux science, faux Fauci science. Chuck, thanks for tuning in. $2. I appreciate that. I will recycle that into any sort of future Doug prizes or whatnot. I got to get those out. Anyone who's on Patreon knows that I have anyone who's a patron, anytime a new book comes out, a short story comes out, anything along those lines, I make sure that they know that if they want it, they can get it, because I appreciate all their support. So Chuck, it's great to hear from you. Great to see you. All right, so Fauci. So yeah, he says that the 6-foot social distancing thing just, quote unquote, just sort of appeared. And then these things took on a life of their own. Now, my thing is that it was, you can trace it back to Fauci. You could trace it back to the media that emboldened this guy, that egged him on, that enabled him, the politicians, all of these people. They knew that this was a lie, but they ran with it, and then they started demonizing people that were honest and truthful and actually using real science. They tried to ostracize people. They tried to alienate people who are truth tellers. So, and yeah, obviously I'm a little bitter about it because I include myself in the group of people that tried to say, that's not even real science, dude. Like, why are we doing this? This is insanity. Why are you telling me I have to stand sick? Okay, you're going to let me into a restaurant, and when I come into a restaurant, you get mad at me because I don't have a mask on. Then I put on the stupid mask. We walk 15 feet away. We sit down at a table in the restaurant. I then take off the mask that you told me to put on 15 feet ago, and now it's magically okay because the next booth over is 6 feet away from me. And the guy who's 6 feet away from me without a mask on is coughing and wheezing anyway, and it's going into the air because it's an airborne virus or whatnot. And if he's got COVID, then I'm going to get COVID, then it doesn't matter. So everything was insane. And so the sane people in an insane world were portrayed as insane. And I was just getting so angry all the time. I remember I walked in to get into the mall. There's essentially, they have comics there. They have all, stuffed animals. They got all sorts of stuff. And I go into the mall and I want to get Spider-Man at the time. This is 2020. And I forgot my mask. And that's the fun. Like, my mask is basically a piece of cloth that does nothing because the virus is smaller than the cloth. It passes through it. It's permeable to the virus. It's really meant, it was for, sawdust and stuff like that. But I forgot it in my car, and this guy freaks out on me, and he is just like, hey, sir, mask, and he's all mad at me. And I was like, hey, whoa, sorry, man, I'm sorry. I don't wear my mask when I'm in the car. When I'm by myself, I'm just driving. I'm not going to put a mask on, man. I'm not going to do it. So I'll get the mask. So I go back to my car, get the mask, walk in. Then I walk back in. Some guy who basically has just like a t-shirt that he wrapped around his face. That's perfectly fine. So I have to go back to the car to get the mask. That's a piece of cloth. And it's magically okay. But then the guy who wraps a t-shirt around him like he's Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome or something, he's also okay. But it's all stupid. It's not science. It's anti-science. If you took a science class, if you paid attention back in the day when there were some good educators, if you were in 6th grade and you learned science, or 7th grade or whatever it was, and you start learning about this stuff, then you knew that this was fake. What were the other ones? mRNA vaccines. They tried to portray it as if it was a silver bullet. So people thought initially, because there were all these quote unquote leaders out there saying like, hey, if you get even the president, even at some, when it was Joe Biden, it was just saying, if you take this shot, you won't transmit the virus to other people. Lie, not science. And so when people like myself and people like Jefferson Roswell tuning in right now, and Dave and AL and Chuck and Captain Cummings and RPX, when people like you tuning in were just like, this is not science, this is not real, why are we doing this? Then you were demonized, then you were kicked off Twitter, or your account was throttled or whatnot. And if you had the gall to say that the Wuhan lab that was known for bioengineering viruses and essentially weaponizing viruses in China, if you dared to say that the pandemic that broke out that down the street from the Wuhan virus lab or whatever it was called, if you said that was the case, then your account was nuked by Twitter at the time, Jack Dorsey, or it was throttled and nobody could see it, because they said that poor people that were making bat soup, or they were boiling bats, magically that was the cause. So the virus mutated like 50 generations at once because some random poor person who is boiling bats, like they've been boiling bats or whatever the heck that they eat there at wet markets for generations. It magically the weaponized COVID-19 virus just came out of the bat soup. You were portrayed as the dumb person for saying that that was not the case. No, it turns out, China's military in Wuhan were the ones that China's military, in part funded by American taxpayers, thanks to good old Dr. Fauci and his allies in Washington, D.C., and back in the day, Barack Obama and all of these guys. That's why they had to cover it up. That's why the CIA had to cover it up. So that's what they did. So yeah, like I said, I'm a little bitter because guys like Dr. Fauci drove wedges between families and friends. If you tried to tell your family, if you were the black sheep in the family, that you didn't get your shot, your mRNA shot, then you had people in your family taking pot shots at you and saying, "Hey, if you would have just taken the shot, you wouldn't have gotten the virus if you got the shot," and stuff like that. So I might know from personal experience about people in my sphere of influence, people very close to me, that tried to tell me that I would not have gotten COVID if I got the shot. And then fast forward in time, my brother, who is a very nice guy who did not give me any crap about not getting the shot. Love my brother, love my entire family. But I particularly extra loved my brother when he didn't give me crap about not getting the shot. Anyway, my brother, who got all the shots, ended up getting COVID and had almost the exact same, the identical symptoms as myself when I got COVID the first time. And yeah, it did suck. I won't lie. Getting COVID the first time around sucked. That was a week and change of diarrhea. So I could laugh about it now. And actually, sometimes even when I'm going through it, diarrhea can actually be kind of funny because you're like, I didn't know the human body can inject like a fire hydrant that amount of diarrhea. That's actually quite hilarious, as miserable as I am. I need to drink some water right away because I'm going to get dehydrated and my kidneys are going to fail and then I'm going to die. But it is, on some level, I have to admit, kind of funny. And so, yeah, even when I had COVID, even when I had a temperature of like 103 or whatever it was, and my butt was exploding, there was a part of me that was still kind of laughing, finding humor in it. So let's see. Dave, remember the outdoor dining pods? Outdoor dining pods, they had middle school choirs where they had them in strange plastic pods. They had the pictures of the kids in the playing the instruments. They were playing the trumpet or whatever the heck it was, and they had a mask on, but the mask had a hole for the trumpet, which makes absolutely no, again, insanity. It was insanity. It was mass psychosis on a scale that they will probably, if we make it that far, study down the line. You'll have all sorts of psychologists being like, how did we get to a point where a whole bunch of kids and even adults who were in orchestras, they had their flute and they were cutting holes in their mask and putting the flute in the hole in the mask and playing, which again, if you took if you took a third grade science class years ago, you were like, I'm just blowing the air out. What is going on here? This makes no sense. Why are we doing this? But it was. People just said, like, you were a good person if you just followed the Fauci faux science. It was very, very strange. Chuck, we were also subjected to a worldwide experiment on mRNA vaccine that has never been mass tested on humans before, with outright lies about its effects and origins. Indubitably, indeed. And that's the other thing is, imagine you're me, and maybe some of you fell into this category as well, and you were the one that didn't get the shot, and you told your family members, hey, mRNA shots are kind of a new thing, and there's literally no long-term studies for this. So if I don't know what the long-term possible effects on my health are going to be when I inject this thing that's not a traditional vaccine into my body, I don't want to take it. And then you had friends and family and people that made you feel like you were crazy because you didn't want to take an experimental shot that had literally no long-term studies. And you were just pressured to do the thing by everybody, by your family, by your friends, by the media, by the politicians, by your own, your bosses at work, and they're threatening that they're going to start mandating that the people, you could lose your job if you don't get the shot. So then you're like, what do I do? How much does this mean to me? Like, this is my body, and they're trying to tell me I don't have bodily autonomy anymore. They're just going to take it away from me. I'm a bad person if I don't just inject things into my body that people tell me. I'm an adult. I'm a grown man, and you're telling me that I have to inject something in my body, and if I don't, you're gonna try and ostracize me from society. You're gonna make it very difficult for me to do the things that I want to do. Don Lemon and Don Lemon was one of them. There are all sorts of different celebrities basically saying like, yeah, we need to think about stripping these people of all sorts of abilities to do their shopping and goods and services and deny them that. And we got to put all sorts of pressure on them and make them do the thing that we want to do. So, Fauci, I can't stand this guy, and I want him to pay for what he did. I want him to pay for separating families. When someone was dying of stage 4 cancer, their mother, and they couldn't visit their dying mother because they weren't vaccinated or whatnot, or maybe they were vaccinated and they were just, they still didn't want people to interact and all sorts of stupid rules and stuff like that. You cause all sorts of families incredible amounts of pain and suffering that they're going to psychologically be dealing with for generations. So, I want this guy to pay for what he did. The Bunderdome. Tim is here. Where is Tim? Doug, do you have any insight into the tunnels? Oh, jeez. Under the New York synagogue. Strangest news of the week. I don't know. Maybe we could ask Dr. Fauci. Actually, you know what? The interesting thing about Dr. Fauci is I heard that he's Catholic, which blew my mind. And I don't even know how this is. Well, actually, here's the thing. He was apparently raised Catholic, but now he said in a video that he doesn't need to go to mass. He doesn't need to receive the sacraments because he believes it's just I think he said it was, quote, pro forma sort of thing. It's just a formality. So Fauci, he could say he's Catholic all he wants, but if you're not receiving the sacraments, if you tell yourself that you don't need to go to confession, you don't need to receive communion, you don't need to do the things that, how do I say this, that literally you need to do to stay in a state of grace. If you believe that you could just do whatever you want because you're Dr. Fauci, I mean, talk about hubris. Talk about idolizing yourself. Not thy will be done, God's will, but Fauci's will be done. So let's see. The New York synagogue. I haven't looked too into it. I did see your feed with Tales from the Crypt music added to it, but I do know that tunnels underneath synagogues, and they have bloody mattresses, and they're child-sized mattresses. I mean, talk about creepy. And then apparently the New York City cops, they wanted to bring in a cement truck and fill in the tunnels before there was any sort of investigations or something along those lines. They were trying to rush job a giant cement truck in there and just fill it all in, which makes no sense, because you would think that if you were investigators and there were what appeared to be bloodstained mattresses in underground tunnels connecting buildings and things like that, you would want to bring in the forensics guys. Let's do some blood tests. Let's look around. Let's see what's going on around here. But all of it was very, very strange. And so I got to be careful what I say. I would like the dust to settle. But really, I just want to know what Dr. Fauci has to say about all of this. Let's see. Chuck says, well, come on, Doug. You mean Catholic like Biden? Yeah, Biden's another one where he publicly says stuff that makes him, whether he wants to admit it or not, a heretic. But then he casts himself as this pious Catholic. I hate to tell you, Joe, that if you're going around, I got to be careful here. I'm trying so hard to be charitable, and yeah. But yeah, Joe Biden, Nancy Pelosi, they're cafeteria Catholics. They just sort of pick and choose the things that they want. And they're like, I like this. I don't like that. I like that. I like that. It's easier to ask for forgiveness than permission. So they're betting that when they die and they appear before, the judgments, the throne of God, the triune God is, let's have a little life review here, Joe. Let's have a little life. They're going to be like, I'm sorry. I just publicly, was encouraging people to have late-term abortions. I didn't know any better. Yeah, you did. So, let's see. Mr. X, thanks for tuning in as well. Others claim they were made in 6 months, but it doesn't really track given where they lead and how long. We're talking about the tunnels again and how long it have taken to connect them to other parts of town. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if the tunnel story is swept underground or whatnot, how long that lasts. But my guess is the media will not be very interested in the tunnels, and it will be very hard to get information on the tunnels unless there are some good cops out there that, maybe there's still some good cops, but New York City keeps running them out of town. So let's see. Chuck's talking about the shots again. Alter your cells at a fundamental level, causing cell spike protein stimulation like a vaccine does, but completely artificial. Yeah, Chuck, it looks like you have also done your research. So let's see. Captain Cummings talking around. AL says, I got COVID twice. They were both super mild. The flu I got was much worse. Yeah, I said back in the day, I went to the Philippines, and when I was coming back, I made the mistake of in the airport I went to the Starbucks and I got an iced tea, and the ice, I think it was the ice. I'm pretty sure that's what it had to be. But anyway, I got super sick. I was jacked up for months and months and months. My lungs, everything was jacked up. And the virus that I got coming out of the Philippines was worse than COVID. Although COVID at times was pretty bad. They were very different. With COVID, I had like all sorts of muscle aches. My entire body was aching. Like it was just not cool at all. So it was different. But I was, in my mind, my perception is whatever I got in the Philippines was far worse than COVID. It was miserable going through that. But COVID jacked me up my lungs for like basically a year. It took me a year, I'd say 8 months to a year to get my lungs back to where they were pre-COVID. And then after my lungs got better, I got COVID a second time. And then I gave it to Mark Pellegrini down in West Texas. I didn't know I had COVID at the time, but I did. I got it. And then I probably gave it I thought it was just a horrible flu because I'd already had COVID. I went to church with Timothy Lim, went to mass. And I guess I didn't give it to Tim. So that was good, but I did give it to Mark. And so then my lungs were jacked up for like another 6 or 7 months. So that was really annoying. But yeah, but never got the shots. So let's see. RPX, those tunnels were most likely already there. Yeah, who knows? I guess we'll find out. All I know is stained mattresses with weirdo stains that are tiny mattresses coming out of tunnels in New York City synagogues is super creepy. I gotta believe that based on the images that I was seeing, that something something not so good was going. There was a strong probability that something evil was going down beneath the buildings, but we don't know for sure. That's why it's good to not have the cops bring in cement trucks and fill things in. We don't want to cover up the evidence and make it hard to figure out what exactly was going on down there. So Jefferson Roswell talking about the COVID years, the one way only aisles in the grocery store. Yeah, you could only go one way. That apparently would stop the virus from spreading. It didn't. We have the data now to know that the masks did essentially squat, other than give people the illusion that they were doing something. And I think Fauci even said something along those lines, that there was value in giving people lying to people and creating the illusion that they were safer than they really were, which I do not agree with that. You shouldn't. And he was the other one who said he lied about herd immunity as well. So they knew what it would take to get to herd immunity, but they gave a lower number or something along those lines. I forgot the exact story. I think I wrote about it for the Washington Times back in the day. But they lied to people because they thought that they would believe, X number, and they would be able to alter their behavior if they lied to them, and they gave them a lower number at first, or something along those lines. So again and again and again, this guy lied. And even on masks, essentially very early on, they were saying that no, masks don't really do anything. The mask that you're wearing, unless you have surgical grade masks, the N95 or above, if you just have these cloth things, it's not going to do anything. And then they flip-flopped on that, and lie after lie after lie after lie. And so, yeah, I mean, you want to talk about doing damage to institutions, and they're just like, oh, why do people believe these quote unquote conspiracies? Well, the conspiracies keep turning out to be true. You act as if they're false, but then they end up either being true, or a huge chunk of what was said turns out to be based in truth. There turned out to be a very valid reason why people should be afraid of X and Y and Z. I mean, you guys tried to lie about Epstein Island and all that sort of stuff. That came out. So, yeah, I mean, stop lying to people. Stop getting caught in lies. Maybe if you could tell the truth for a few years, verifiably tell the truth, trust but verify. I actually don't trust these people, and then verify what they say. And if we could verify what they say for maybe 5 years, maybe a decade, then you could earn back some trust. But you have zero trust. And actually, Dr. Fauci, do you remember Dr. Klopek from The Burbs? I don't know if you watched The Burbs back in the day with Tom Hanks. The guy who ended up murdering people and putting them in his basement and stuff like that. Dr. Fauci always gave me Dr. Klopek vibes from the Burbs. Every time he talked, every time I looked at him, I'm like, this guy, he gives off serial killer vibes. I'm sorry, like if that sounds bad or weird or whatever, but seriously creepy vibes. And the fact that he lied about all of this sort of stuff, and it's all connected with death on a massive scale. I mean, yeah. So again, I want this guy to be held responsible. All right, circling back. If you have not checked your email and you have been anticipating Black Ops Volume 6 and Omnibus, check your email. Tim was sending them out, and so you should be able to read that if you want. If you were expecting the digital copies, obviously, if you weren't, I forgot all the different, the tiers and who gets what or whatnot. So I don't want people accusing Tim of not sending things and things like that. But again, if you were anticipating this and it was supposed to come with your order, check it out. All right. What else did we have to get to? We got the Soul Finder Volume 4. I said, Bill Williams is making headway. I want to say he's got like eight pages that are turned into the Dropbox folder. I know more are on the way. All the artwork is done, so he is essentially like fast-tracked or prioritized Soul Finder Volume 4. So that's coming in at a pretty good clip. And like I said, I got new art today. Some people that were turning in have already seen it. And they were very happy. They thought it was by Dave Dorman initially, but it is not. It is by our colorist, Rodrigo, who's been a pleasure to work with. And yeah, and actually, if you check out Matt Weldon's work on the crossover, Rodrigo did the color work there as well. So Rodrigo he was working overtime for Iconic Comics last year, and he did a really great job. So, all right, did I miss anything? Dave, all right. Chuck says, during COVID, I had to explain to many people about the Tuskegee experiments, and many people couldn't believe it and didn't know about it. Yeah, if you want to know why they don't teach actual history in history class anymore, if you want to know why the education system stinks, it's because they don't want people to know the actual history. How ironic is it that we have instant access to accurate history on the internet? It is a click away, but our actual educators go out of their way these days to keep people in the dark, and the society at large, in many respects, is actually far more ignorant than they were in the days when you needed an encyclopedia. And you had to, your family, maybe they scrounged up money and they spent like $150 or $200 or who knows what for, a giant encyclopedia that you would have to flip through. But the encyclopedia was accurate, and it was like a prized possession once, like years and years and years ago. These things were hardbound and they were really nice. Maybe they had gilded edges, and people had an encyclopedia, had all sorts of knowledge in it, and you could get it and you could trust it, and you knew it was good. And the people that were putting out the encyclopedia, they knew their reputation was on the line, so they made sure that it was accurate and it was cited properly and all this sort of stuff. But now these days, on the internet, they go out of their way. The Google algorithm wants to bury anybody that actually tells the truth. Up is down, down is up, left is right, right is left. Everything's inverted. Is it on purpose? Yeah, it's on purpose, because If they keep people stupid, if they keep people ignorant, if you don't have critical thinking skills, then you'll just go along with whatever they say. Then you will cut holes in your mask, and then you'll put your flute in your mask, and you'll play the flute, and you'll think that that's somehow preventing you from getting COVID or something along those lines. So let's see. What else do we want to say? I think I said most of what I wanted to cover. Anime Sunika, where is that? Iconic Comics getting into anime, manga, sneakers. Here we go. Come on. All right, so February 17th and 18th, down in Texas, check it out. If you are in the area, I really just wanted to say Iconic Comics, you never know when they're going to surprise you. You never know when out of left field something fun is going to come at you. Rob Curro, I know you're down in Texas, and that's not a secret. I'm not doxing your state or anything. You're online talking about, Bell County Comic-Con, sharing pictures. Rob, I know you said that you were interested in going to Anime Sunika. Stay tuned for future announcements and things like that. Anybody else who's down in Texas? Yeah, so very cool. And I'm very proud of the organizers of Bell County Comic-Con, the president, and everybody involved in Iconic Comics to this level, to continue to expand, to push the envelope, to try and find, new audiences out there. Very cool. Very cool. Badger. He's helping promo. Let's see, what is Bunderdome? Look up Frank Olson, MK Ultra researcher for the CIA that the government later admitted that they murdered as a research cover-up. It's real that the government will kill you as a means to an end. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. So, and I was talking about this last stream where a lot of this stuff, you can't talk about it. Like YouTube will definitely get you in many respects. Twitter, even to this day, it's better than it was, but it's still not so hot. But I try to talk about a lot of this stuff through stories and in terms of spiritual warfare and whatnot. So, yeah, I wish we got to a point where we could actually just have an open discussion about what really goes down and what the CIA is actually capable of. So yeah, Mr. Grohovac, shocking story. Let's see, Zol Yin podcast on today's episode of Doug Stream. Diarrhea is kind of funny. Perfect clip. Yeah, somebody will clip that out and they'll talk about how, I mean, it is on some level. I mean, especially if you're a guy, I feel like guys, for whatever reason, fart jokes and poop jokes, there's always like a little kid in you somewhere that still laughs about it. So how can you not? And to me, if you're miserable, if you have 103-degree temperature and you have muscle aches and you're barely, like, you're struggling to get to the toilet and you barely just slide onto the toilet, and then just like some giant Air Force jet engine level of diarrhea explodes out your butt, like, you have to laugh. On some level, you have to be like, this is crazy. And like I said, I'm quite amazed that the human body is capable of doing such things. You live for decades of your life and you have a certain level of sickness, and then you get really sick and you're like, I did not know this was possible. I really did not know that this was possible. This is crazy. Projectile vomiting. I think I talked about, like, years ago, I got food poisoning when I was at college, and my urine was literally black. And I had to walk like a half mile to the student center. I thought I was going to die. I felt like a zombie. It was the longest half mile of my life, and I just started crying when I got to the front of the line because they had been turning people away. And I was just like, I can't do it any longer. Like, I thought they were going to send me back home. And the lady's like, no, we're going to see you right now. And it took, I want to say like 3.5 giant, maybe even like 4 bags of giant IV bags before I felt the need to pee, because they're like, at some point in time, you're going to need to pee. And they just kept giving me these bags, the giant IV bags. And they're like, you got to pee yet? And I was like, no. I got to pee yet? Nope. No. I want to say it was like 3.5 before I had to pee. But anyway, during the night, I was projectile vomiting and my butt was exploding when I was breakdancing on the toilet. So I would puke and then I would immediately turn around as fast as possible. And as soon as my butt got over the toilet, then I would do that. Then I would flush the toilet. Then I would turn around. Then I would vomit. And I was like, literally like, it was basically like breakdancing in my bathroom. And then that was the one night that my roommate at the time, he never brought any sort of girls home, but he went on some date or something. And he brought this girl home at like 10:30 at night. And I was breakdance, puking, and pooping. And I think I ruined that night for him. I think she went home. But he was very nice and very kind and very apologetic. But I always felt bad that, my roommate had a successful date of some sort. And he finally came home with some girl. And his roommate was just violently ill. And I was hallucinating at one point in time. So like I was on my floor after having done all this, and there was like an astronaut or something that was like floating by. And I was just like, oh, wow, I'm like sort of like hallucinating. There's an astronaut, like, this is very weird. And I was like, I just got to make it to the morning, man. Like, I got to make it to the morning. And so as soon as sun came out, I pulled myself up and I stumbled a half mile to the student resource center. And then I got a whole bunch of IVs and I was better. And then I didn't eat Subway. And then Subway, they tried to say, I called them and I was like, hey, man, I got food poisoning from you guys. It was the only thing I ate. And I had your it was like an orange sauce steak, something, whatever. I got food poisoning from you guys. And they're like, that's not true. You didn't get anything from us. And I was like, I'm telling you, it's you. I'm just trying to tell you. I'm not going to try and sue you or anything like that. I just want you to know that you guys made me really, really sick. So something weird's going down with the people that are working at this Subway here in Los Angeles. No, it's not us. Okay. Within a month, that Subway was shut down for safety, for like hygiene or whatever, food violations. They were completely shut down. So I was apparently not the only person that got sick at the Subway in Los Angeles near USC. But I digress. Anyway, Iconic Comics, doing all sorts of cool stuff. Also, thank you to the Japanese readers out there. They put together the Common America Dojinshi. Did I say it right? I am really bad with the manga. I'm really bad with the anime. I admit this. They gave Father Crane some love, so I would like to thank them for that. That is very kind. They're obviously huge Common America Black Ops fans, and they didn't need to put Father Crane in their little, kind of fan magazine or whatnot, but they did. So I appreciate that. That's pretty cool. They've been very, very, very kind to me. Last thing that I will say is recently on Twitter and YouTube, I've been checking it out. And I put checks in on X, sees Indie Comics feed looking like a Michael Jackson Beat It video. Thinks, wow, we're not even out of January yet. Laughs, gets back to work. So I'm not going to say too much about the Michael Jackson Beat It videos, the environment of Indie Comics on Twitter the past few days, or on YouTube. It's got Devo energy. If a problem comes along, you must whip it. Do, you must whip it. So, I mean, Indie Comics on YouTube and Twitter, it's whip it good, and beat it by Michael Jackson. All sorts of craziness going down. If you want to break from the beat it, if you want to break from whip it, if you want to break from Michael Jackson and Devo Indie Comics, then I would just suggest checking out Tim and Mark's feed. today, and you will see all the Black Ops 6 and Omnibus 2 positivity just pouring forth. And it's just been a really fun, really awesome, really positive time. And I don't know, I'm just really proud of Tim and Mark and the campaigns that they ran last year and how they're ushering in 2024 in a super positive way. And they're just putting out content after content after content, and it's really cool. And speaking of content after content after content, Volume 4 Soul Finder, I will briefly mention this, I guess. So, all right, here's what I had to say January 10th here. It's the 12th, 10th, 2 days ago. I sometimes see people talk about Iconic Comics as if there is some angel investor who makes it possible to get most, if not all, of the books done prior to launch. Or it's kind of framed as each creator is like Scrooge McDuck surfing on gold in a vault. This is not the case. Speaking only for myself, I started out as a consumer advocate before entering the creator realm, so my default setting is to try my best to make things easier on readers. There are financial sacrifices that are made to get as much done on the front end as possible. It sometimes stings, I promise. It really stings with inflation. Thanks a lot, Joe Biden. Thanks a lot, U.S. government, for decades that have been pursuing inflationary policies. Regardless, each creator does his own thing and has his own life. We're not a monolith, but I do very much enjoy the company at shows. So I have been doing my best to get as much done on Soul Finder Volume 4 as get as much done as possible before launching. And if I have my way, it'll be completely finished, and I might even have the soft covers in, and then I will only need to be waiting on the hard covers, get that settled before I launch a Kickstarter campaign. I'll probably put out a mailing list in the near future. But sometimes people think that there's this angel investor out there that just is filled with money, that is just giving Tim and Mark and Eric Canetti and I don't know, Sven and Matt Weldon and Bill Williams and me and Alejandro just money. That is not the case. Everybody has their own financial situations and their own things. And I try my best to recycle money from the previous campaign into the next one. But when you put it just on the Iconic website, they pay me quarterly. So I don't get all the sales all at once as you would with a crowdfunding campaign. So it's I don't want to say more difficult to budget per se, but I mean, I got my own personal life too. Anyway, the point of the matter is that Iconic Comics on the whole gets most, if not all of the books done up front, not because of angel investors, not because anybody is like Scrooge McDuck, but because the creators under its umbrella overall prioritize getting people the things that they promised when they promised them. If you prioritize it, then it tends to get done. And so it's funny how that works. There's a positive correlation between prioritizing something and then actually having that thing get done. And at some point in time, there was some guy. Where is this guy? Some guy comes on. This is actually kind of funny. All right, or woman, or whoever this account is. Robin here says, nobody effing cares. Do your job and shut up. When you go to a restaurant and your food comes out late or wrong, do you care that the cook is having a bad day? No, you don't, but you want others to care about you. Get the F out of here with that BS. Now, this is very interesting. All I did was point out that I'm not a millionaire and that I'm doing my best to get people their product up front so when they order it, it comes out on time. Robin here comes up with a very interesting analogy that this is like somebody who was in a restaurant, but they got the customer the food late, and now they want the customer to feel sorry for them. It's not even anything close. They've actually inverted it. It's not. So this is interesting because my post is about getting people their stuff on time and how Iconic Comics has consistently got people their stuff on time. So if Iconic Comics was a restaurant, Robin, They would not be the person who is serving late food. They would be the person that is serving good food, on time food. And then they would be telling the customer, I wish that I could do even more for you, but there are limitations. There are limited resources. So here's the thing that you ordered when you ordered it, and I think it's good, and I hope you like it, but I wish I could do more for you, but I'm not a millionaire. If I was a millionaire, I would give you even more. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying, oh, woe is me. Oh, no, I'm just saying I'm correcting a misconception out there that I'm Scrooge McDuck, Moneybags McGee, and gold coins are falling out of my pocket, and I could just create or have hardcover books out the wazoo printed for people. I can't. I can on some level, but if you want to know why things sometimes don't go as quickly as I would like them to go, it's because I'm not a millionaire and I don't have an angel investor. But very interesting. So here's the thing with these accounts that show up. Anytime creators of iconic comics try and talk about what sets them apart from other people that are releasing books, these accounts that are anonymous accounts, oftentimes new, oftentimes 4 people are following them, or maybe they're following like a couple people here or there. They show up, they're created, they're brand new, and they say things like, nobody effing cares about you, just do your job and shut up. They don't want you to talk about it. Very interesting. Very interesting. And this has gone on for years. And for a long time, I never said anything about it. And Tim and Mark don't say anything about it. And these are the things that would show up at like 3 o'clock in the morning on my YouTube page. I'd have people, speaking of COVID, wishing that Tim and Mark and we all died of COVID and things like that. So very interesting how anytime iconic comics creators start talking about how they want to deliver the goods to their reader base, and they want to go above and beyond, they want to under promise and over deliver. Anytime that happens, it seems that these individuals, these anonymous individuals with expletive laden rants and screeds show up. No one effing cares. I feel like they do care. In fact, I don't even say I feel the evidence shows that they do want to hear about the process. They do want to hear about the logistics. They do want to hear about the behind the scenes things. Robin? And Robin here says, when you go to a restaurant and your food comes out late or wrong, do you care that the cook is having a bad day? No, you don't. No, that's you, Robin. Actually, if I go to a restaurant and the food is late, maybe the server is brand new. And sometimes you can tell that the server is brand new. It's their first day on the job. It's their first week on the job. So I do care. And sometimes you could look on somebody's face and you can see they're having a bad day. And sometimes you could look on somebody's face and see that they're not feeling well. Maybe they're dragging butt that day for whatever reason. You can tell that they needed to pay the bills. And so they went to work even though everything in their body said, stay in bed today. And so I do care about the server. And I do care about the cook. And usually, if I go to a restaurant, if it's not that bad, I won't say anything. I won't complain. But if I go back and the next time I go back, the service is equally bad, then maybe I'll say something. Or if the service is bad and the server is rude and they have an attitude that's entitled or something like that, then maybe I'll say something. But just because you, Robin, just because you don't care about the cook in the back or you don't care about the server, it doesn't mean that the rest of us are like you. So very interesting. You're telling on yourself. You're not putting me in your place. You're telling on yourself, and you're telling the world who you are, Robin. So again, very interesting. Very interesting. Let's see here. Mr. Gahovac says, LOL. Captain Cummings, one time I had diarrhea in the toilet and my bathtub was in front of me. I had to puke in the bathtub. All right. Well, hopefully you didn't take a bath after that right away. So let's see. That would be a pretty gross bath bomb, or what do they call it? Bath bombs, bath bubbles, or whatever they are. Mr. Hovac, let's see. Captain Cummings, it happened to me as well. Only I puked in a small sink. Let's see, Captain Cummings, I usually just order another beer when my food is late at the restaurant. What kind of insane logic is that? Zol Yin podcast. Robin's scenario is unhinged, just like you said. The customer would be angry at the late fulfillers coming up with excuses. I won't name any names, but a certain chicken themed superhero comes to mind. So yeah, I mean, I could go, I could go on for a long time about that sort of stuff. So, and actually, where is that? Somebody commented, where is it? There was a comment that was kind of interesting. The Holy Goat said, there's a not so insignificant portion of the indie comics realm for whom normalizing several years waiting time per the purchase to delivery is key to their business model. Guys like you and Gat Hanzo present a distinct problem to them. Gat is they're behind Bullet Maker and Vestige. And I replied, shrinking the gap between when readers place their order and when they receive their books has caused friction over the years. That is very true. So yeah, no, there's definitely friction. A lot of people just, they don't understand that. So it's one of these things where, other creators can talk about their philosophy and how they view things and how they believe that it should be done, and that's no problem. But if you disagree with them and you have, principled disagreements, then that's when people get bent out of shape and they want you to shut up. That's when the Robins come out of the woodwork and they tell you to shut up. Nobody cares. Just be quiet, Doug. Don't talk about iconic comics and what it's doing. No, I think I will. I think I will talk about iconic comics, and I will talk about fulfillment of Black Ops 6 and Omnibus 2, and I will talk about Soul Finder Volume 4, and I will talk about Eric Canetti, and I will talk about Butch Killigan if I want to, and Punchline if I want to, and I will talk about Long Harbor if I want to. I'll talk about anything I want to talk about. So, how do you like them apples? Anyway, RPX, thanks again for tuning in. Appreciate it. Again, check out the Common America Twitter feed. Check out Tim and Mark's feed. A lot of positivity going on lately. And that's where I want to direct you, if at all possible. Check that out. Anyways, we've been going for an hour and 13 minutes and 24 seconds. I appreciate everybody that has tuned in today. RPX says you guys are on point. The comment section was on point today as well. Thanks for everybody that contributed to conversations about Dr. Fauci. Thanks to the Bunderdome for tuning in. Thanks to people that talked about consultants and the political class in DC. And thanks to everybody that backed Black Ops Volume 6 and Omnibus 2. I appreciate it. So if you like those books, check out Iconic Comics in the weeks and months ahead, and check out Anime Sunica if you're in Texas, down in the Belton area, and you like anime and manga, and you like Asian food. I know I do. So I'm not going to be able to get to Anime Sunica this year, but maybe next year. We shall see. Anyway, thanks again for tuning in. I appreciate everybody, and I will see you soon. See ya.